plan is to put it on all of my social media. So think of typical social media that millennials, I don't even know, because we're not millennials. If you're born in the 80s, you're not a millennial. Millennial. It used to be Gen Y. It used to be. But Goonies apparently is a more fitting term. I'm gonna go with that. Anyway, neither here nor there. Don't really pay attention to that too much. Um, just my someone born in their 80s. Think about what social media platforms that they probably have, and I probably have all those. So if you don't find it here, maybe you'll find it under one of the other ones. The ones that allow me to upload this with hashtags, I'm gonna put the same hashtags on all of them. So you might be able to find it. Anyways, we're gonna see what happens because on a platform I have been flagged for this particular thing, but I'm gonna put it in here and I'm gonna give you the back all the way to the front. I'm gonna try to be as thorough as possible, quick as possible too. Okay, so the first thing we gotta start with, I'm gonna try my best to show you on the camera what I'm reading, but in case you need reference, okay, so we're starting right here with this. This is a Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible. You can see that. See it? See it? This is an old school one. This one is, let's see, where's our publishing date? This is one with, what do we got? What do we got? 1980 by Abingdon Press, 1986. Yeah, Abingdon Press, 1986. Electronically or mechanically, including photocopying and recording information. Yeah. Alright, so it's got a 1986 copyright. Oh. But certain, anyways, we're not going to go into that. Not going to go into that. 1986. So, we're talking about. When was this one? Alright, so this, I guess, is the first edition, I think. I'm not too sure if it's a first edition, but it's a 45th printing, because it says that 45th printing, 1989. So I guess maybe not the first edition, maybe the 45th. Anyways, and in case you were not aware, Strong's Exhaustive Concordance has about a 50-year head start on your Zonderbans, which are not as research oriented as the Strongs. I said I'd be quick. Already almost 5 minutes in. Dang. Dang. So, unfortunately, the Strongs does not give you, at least the hardbacks, do not give you the sometimes called Paleo Hebrew, Phoenician Hebrew. Um, there's another name for it I don't remember, but basically the ancient Hebrew, the one that does not have Germanic influenced vowel sounds. Germanic Asiatic language. Okay, and not in the same family. Now, with that said, not in the same family. And honestly, the Hebrew alphabet, the original Paleo Hebrew alphabet, is way older than the German language even is itself. So, how would they even be related? Doesn't make sense. You can't take a newer language to try and recreate. Never mind. We're not going there. Not gonna go there. That's not what this video is about. We're gonna start. The reason we're bringing this up is because we gotta look up some words, right? And even though this is a Germanic influenced version of Hebrew, we will still arrive where we're going to arrive. Now, the first word that we're gonna look at in here is the word by word. That is BYWORD. It is a singular word, like a compound word, by word. In the Bible, you will find it in Deuteronomy 28:37, 1 Kings 9:7, 2 Chronicles 7:20, Job 17:6, Job 30:9, as well as Psalms 44:14. Now, we may not look at all. Is that six? Six. But we will look at least at three of those. At least three, because 2 or 3 witnesses establish a matter. Byword. Now, byword. You can see it here. Strong's 8148. 8148. I don't know if you can see it. If not, 8148. I'm gonna save this video and I'm gonna do an editing on it at some point. But the first version you're getting is raw. No filter, no edit. And it looks like it's gonna be about 20 minutes. Maybe a half hour. We ain't even got to the first word yet. That's a shame. What did I say? 8414? No, 8148. 8148. 8148. 81. Page before. Alright, 8148. Okay, so as it says in here, the word is pronounced Shenina. 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 We're not going to spell that out. From Strong's 8150, something pointed, i.e. a guide, byword, taunt. Taunt. Remember that. Taunt. You know what taunting is? You should know what taunting is. Okay, if not, look that word up. Taunt is spelled T-A-U-N-T. Look it up if you don't know the meaning of taunt, or what a taunt is, or what it means to taunt someone. 8150. Let's go to that too. Something pointed to. Remember, that was it's saying from 8150. Something pointed to by word taunt. 8150 is Shana, the primitive root to point. Transitive or intransitive. Intensely to pierce. Figuratively to inculcate, which I would have to look that word up. Prick, sharp, teach diligently, whet, spelled W-H-E-T. That is a highly uncommonly used word. So if you don't know what the word WHET is, wet, I will suggest you look that up too if you want to investigate Strong's 8150. But we don't really need to pierce, to point, root to point. It's basically giving you the root of 8148, which was also something pointed. So, it's pointing to something. Taunting. If I'm taunting you, my words are pointing to you. Pointing to something, I should say. Alright, so we have that down. A byword is a taunt. Make fun of, we could say. Now, let's go over back to here, and we're going to look at the scriptures that it's in. And we're going to read them in more than one version. But we're going to start with the first mention, which happens to be Deuteronomy 28:37. If you are familiar with Deuteronomy chapter 28, you are well aware that it gives you an outline, sort of, to say, or not really necessarily an outline, but yeah, actually, I will call it that. It gives an outline to the reader. I will say conditions. Yeah, pretty much kind of the conditions of the covenant that the Israelites made with Yahweh at Mount Sinai. Now, 28 is the chapter again. The verse is 37. 37 happens to be in the section of conditions that give what we would call the conditions of not adhering or obeying the covenant. 37, that falls within that range, that particular area of the covenant. So, verse 37, it says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither," I'm not going to say Lord, "whither Yahuwah shall lead thee." Let me show you right here. Now, I don't look like I'm going to be able to show y'all anything in here. I apologize for my horrible camera. Now, let's also read that in the Septuagint. Okay, Deuteronomy 28, chapter 20, verse 37. And it reads, "And thou shalt be there for a wonder and a parable and a tale among all the nations to which Yahuwah thy Elohim shall carry thee away." Now, this version, obviously, were a little different, but a wonder, same as the first one, a parable used instead of a proverb, and instead of byword, a tale, spelled Tale, like I'm going to tell you a tale, a story. And then let me give you a moment. This is my New English Bible. Because sometimes people do not understand things when it's worded one way and you got worded differently. So I'm doing you all a favor and I'm going to allow you to hear in different ways, and hopefully at least one of the three will make things clear for you. So, Deuteronomy 28, verse 37, once again. This is the New English Bible, and it reads this way: "You will become a horror, a byword, and an object lesson." That's hyphenated to object lesson. "To all the peoples amongst whom Yahuwah disperses you." I'm going to read that to you one more time. "You will become a horror, a byword, and an object lesson to all the peoples amongst whom Yahuwah disperses you." They use L-O-R-D. I don't say that. It's capitalized. That isn't his name. We're not going to say that on my videos. Just, follow the rules of English properly here. Because if we're going to use a capital, it's the person, place, or thing. It is a noun. It's not at the beginning of a sentence. It's a proper name. Okay? It is a proper name of a person, a place, or a thing. Now, let's go on to 1 Kings 9 and 7. That's what I said earlier. How many witnesses? 2 or 3. Yes, 2 or 3. Alright, we are going to start. You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you guys. So, this one, the first one that I'm reading is the King James Version. And why do I use the King James? Because the Strong's takes directly from the King James. No other version, just the King James. Alright, so that translation. What did I say it was? 1 Kings. Change the page, right? He did not. Second use of this word by word. Oh, no. Yes, it did. Or did it? No, it didn't. Okay. Whew. 1 Kings 9 and 7. Ooh, dang. That's 20 minutes. 1 Kings, I was almost there. Chapter 9. It says 7. 7, I believe that was. Yep. Chapter 9, verse 7. Here we go. Alright. Verse 7 reads of 1 Kings chapter 9. Then I will cut off Yasharal out of all. I will use Israel for this. Then I will cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have haloed for my name, and I will cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. Now, go back and read for that chapter for context. It is important. The context of that chapter is important. Matter of fact, oh yep, that was definitely at the beginning. That was part of something that King Solomon stated after the temple was built. After the temple to Yahweh was built, that was words from King Solomon. So read that chapter for context. It's important. You need to understand why he was saying what he said. But just to read it again one more time. Then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have haloed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. Now remember what I said about Deuteronomy 28 and 37 that we read. What was that about? It was the conditions of the covenant, right? Okay. So obviously there's a reason he's talking about this covenant, that specific part again here. King Solomon is talking about this yet again. So read it for context. 1 Kings chapter 9. Read the whole book really, but read that for the context surrounding. Now, what's it say in the Septuagint? I wonder what it says in the Septuagint version of the same verse and chapter. First Kings chapter 9, verse 7 in the Septuagint reads, Then will I cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and this house, that would be the temple, which I have consecrated to my name, I will cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a desolation and a byword to all nations. See, you're sticking with that byword. They're gonna be a byword. What was a byword? Point to a taunt, right? A taunt. Right. Now, let's go over here to the New English Version so it can provide whatever clarity may need to be provided to anyone who may still be unclear of what Solomon is talking about. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 7. I was about to read the wrong verse. Here we go. Where's the beginning of it? not that it reads it different, it's how they number the verses. So I could have. 6 does give a little more context to what I'm reading. But I'm not going to read. I don't want to read that because that might throw you off. Okay. But the New English Version, if you do read verse 6 of chapter 9 of First Kings, it does provide more clarity than just verse 7 alone. So then, this is where we're going to say that verse 7 is starting on the word then. So this isn't, the sentence is not complete. This is the back half of the sentence. So there's a condition before, because after the comma comes the word then. Then I will cut off Israel from the land which I gave them. I will renounce this house, the temple again. I will renounce this house which I have consecrated in honor of my name, and Israel shall become a byword and an object lesson among all peoples. Okay, so you see there is a stress of them being a byword. They're going to be cut off. Going to be a desolation. They're going to be a parable. They're going to be a proverb. Let's look at. We're not going to look at Second Chronicles. Second Chronicles. If you read First Kings, if you read the books of Kings, First Kings and Second Kings, and then you go read Second Chronicles or First and Second Chronicles, you will see that they are quite similar. You have a little few varieties of differences here and there, but this particular portion is repeated in Second Chronicles because it's the same, basically, scene or event. I will say it's the same event, which is the temple being built in the land that they were given when they are settled in the land. They have been settled in the land. This is basically after the conquest of Canaan, or after they ceased in their conquest, I will say, because they didn't conquer the whole entirety of Canaan as they were directed, as they were commanded to, I will say. The way they were commanded to conquer it, they did not follow to the T what they were commanded to do. So, that's why I'm saying this is after that conquest ceased, to put it in a way. But what I'm saying is, what you read in Second Chronicles, chapter 7, is the same thing that you read, is the same event that's in First Kings chapter 9. So we're not going to read that. Maybe let's check out Job 17. There's 2 verses in Job, the book of Job, so we're going to actually look if see how what kind of clarity they may bring. The main thing is this related to the covenant? Big time. Hmm. It's an interesting comparison, but actually, it's right on point. So here we see a comparison. It is a comparison. Uh, in this, I believe it's like this. Yeah. So here we see actually in Job. So this is Job 17, verse 6, and we see a comparison of what we saw in, or what is basically stated in the conditions from Deuteronomy 28. So Job 17, verse 6. He hath made me also a byword of the people, and aforetime I was as a tabrets. If I'm remembering correctly, the tabret is, I think, a music. No, I'm not even gonna. No, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Hold on. I can look that up. We'll look at it. We're not gonna play the guessing game here. We're not gonna play that game. I believe I know what it is, but I want to be for certain. 8611, 86. That'd be a word not even related to the subject matter. Someone's like misinformation. I can see it. I can see it. People be petty like that. So that's from the base of a smiting, contempt, tabret. Job, you're gonna have to go with a lot of the contents that surrounds those verses to really, because with Job, it's more like an analogy type comparisons. Here, that's probably also going to require some context in the Book of Psalms. The Psalms has a lot of figurative language. But this, I would say, is quite clear for the Book of Psalms 44, uh, chapter 44, verse 14. That reads, "Thou makest us a byword among the heathen, a shaking of the head among the people." Actually, I've heard that one before. Yeah, that is a good one to read to get context as well. Just so you get basically what the song is talking about overall. What we saw, a byword, a shaking of the head, like, looking at somebody and just shaking their head like this, like, y'all know of that, SMH. Look at that. Way before shaking his head, before any of us were alive. SMH, right there in the pages of the Bible. Let me read that over again. Listen to it. Psalms 44:14 in the Septuagint. Thou hast made us a proverb among the Gentiles. That's specific. A proverb among the Gentiles. A shaking of the head among the nations. That's super specific. The King James, see, that says among the heathen, but the Septuagint among the Gentiles, it is capitalized too. Now, people will tell you different definitions of who the Gentiles are, but in here, the Gentiles is talking about a specific nation of people in this context, right here. Not the heathen, the Gentiles. Well, maybe not one specific nation, but it is a specific people group. This is not Gentiles as in everybody else that is not Yasharel. That's not what this is. Let's see what it says in the New English Bible. And this one might not make it to, ain't gonna make it to that platform by the looks of it. I'll put it like that. I don't think we're making it to that platform. unless I break it up, I could do it. I don't necessarily want to. We could. Or we could re-record it with just less. Psalms 44, verse 14. Thou hast made us a byword among the nations, and the peoples shake their heads at us. Shake their heads at us. Mm, mm, mm. Read Psalms 44 so you get all the context of that. Get it all. Get it all. Absorb it. Absorb it. Alright. Okay. Byword. You're probably wondering why. Why byword? We're going somewhere with this. We are going somewhere. I kid you not. I want to show y'all. Oops. Notes. Might not have put this in the notes. Okay. Oh. I was about to pull that thing. Actually. Um. Alright. So I had to read some. Look in the notes. Check the notes real quick for it. I did not have not put that in my study notes. So we are going to have to kind of go. Alright. So the word, which is only found in one place in your King James Bible, and that is the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 1. If you know that verse, you know exactly what word I'm talking about. Because it's the only one time that you're going to see it in there. And you're not going to see it in, I think, other versions at all. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. What was it? Oh, wow. You don't turn to it. Oh, so it is, the word is Strong's 3526. Strong's 3526. 3526. And there's some debate about this word, but I want you to understand that we're looking at what it means in the Greek, translated from the Greek. Okay? So, not the word that it originates from. We're looking at the word used that the Greeks used for this word and what it translates from Greek. Strong's 3526. Oh, 6. Alright. Now, this spell. Whoa. Wow, this spell. This word. I'm not even going to spell it out. Because I've had issues on platforms with this word. It's pronounced Neger. Neger. Of Latin origin. Black. Niger. A Christian. Neger. That is Strong's 3526. Let me read that definition one more time. Pronounce Neger, of Latin origin, black. Neger, a Christian. Okay? Are we clear? Of Latin origin, black. I'm pretty sure we know some words that sound similar that translate to black that are Latin or of Latin related languages. Okay? Black. And don't forget Christian. Black. Christian. Black. A color. Christian. A religious designation. Right? Now, let's go to the scripture that it's in, right? Acts 13. No, what's that? Acts 13? Maybe it was Acts chapter 13, verse 1. Now, we already read it, right? Let's start off in the King James. King James. Yeah, I might have to do this broken up. It might not make it to that platform. Simple as that. Now, here we go. Acts chapter 13, verse 1 reads in the King James. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Who are Barnabas and Simeon? Do you know who Barnabas and Simeon are? If you don't, let me help you out. We're going to take a look at the New Concise Bible Dictionary, edited by Derek Williams. Alright, now, why are we getting this out? Well, I don't know, maybe because it's a little bit easier to search through people, search for people in here, maybe, just maybe. Look at that right there. What does that say? I think it says Barnabas. Barnabas, called son of encouragement by Luke. He was from a Jewish a Jewish Cypriot family, basically meaning his family was basically residents of Cyprus, which is where Antioch is located. Antioch is in Cyprus. Okay, let's establish a little geography there. So Antioch is in Cyprus. That's why they say Jewish Cypriot. So either by, we'll say, geopolitically, there were Cyprians, or Cypriots, maybe that's how they called it, what they called it. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. And the Jewish, well, that's the designation that they give Israelites, and which is incorrect, but Israelite. So he was an Israelite. He didn't live in his land, because you got to remember, this is, oh, what is the time frame here? I don't know the time frame on that part, actually, in that portion. Oh, let's see, it is after the Messiah's resurrection. So we're still probably, yeah, we would still be talking about before Jerusalem's destruction. But at that time, we already know that all Israelites did not live in Jerusalem. They did not all live in Judea. We know that there were Israelites of the northern kingdom already exiled, and they did not all return. So, anyways, Jewish Cypriot family, and a cousin of John Mark, Colossians 4:10 for reference, who sold his property for the common good, Acts 4:36. He was regarded as an apostle, Acts 14:14, 1 Corinthians 9:5. His warm-heartedness, spiritual insight, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to go into all that. But we know, as we just read there, that he was an apostle. But let's go down. He journeyed with Paul. This is still in the same entry about Barnabas. He journeyed with Paul, and until they left Cyprus, it was he who was apparently leader, but then Paul took over. Acts 13-14. However, at the Jerusalem Council, his preeminence in the Gentile question is recognized at the hearing and in the letter, Acts 15:1. He then insisted on taking Mark on a second missionary journey, which Paul resisted, breaking their working partnership but not their friendship. He was still alive when 1 Corinthians was written, but little is known about his latter life. So he was an apostle, Barnabas, called what again? Let's read it one more time, just to get real clear. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. What do they call it? Niger. What did we define Niger as? We defined it as black Christian. Let's read that in another version, which will not be the Septuagint, because the Septuagint is not inclusive of the New Testament. Septuagint would be the writings of the prophets that were already available to be translated. Okay, Acts 13. So, New English Bible. New English Bible again. Acts 13:1. There were at Antioch in the congregation there certain prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simon called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been at the court of Prince Herod, and Saul. Alright. So we know they did call them prophets, they called them teachers, but it says called Niger, right? Now, what did the Strongs defined it as? Two things: black Christian. Interesting. Now, yeah, so just that's I would say that's quite interesting. But that brings us where we were coming to. That is the arrival. I want you to understand. They would be known, these Israelites would be known as a byword. Now, what byword do we know that sounds like me and ger? A prophecy is a prophecy when you can show the evidence of the prophecy being fulfilled. They were first called not black Christian in Antioch. They were called Neger. So if a Christian is a Neger or black or a Neger, which means black and Christian, and I'm gonna end it right there, fam.